Welcome to The Good Ride, a place where average riders like myself with exceptional gear knowledge help you figure out what to buy. This is the Never Summer Swift. Next to it is the Shapeshifter. Not going to be talking about this too much, or the Valhalla for that matter, but I might occasionally reference them when it comes up. I rode this on groomers and a decent amount of POW over several days. This Swift 58 felt perfect. I wouldn't want bigger, I wouldn't want smaller. It felt very good with my size 9 boots, which are a little bit on the small side. I was still able to control it. Now, when it comes to the shape, this is 20 mil taper, very directional. You can see the nose and tail are massively different. It's not super set back. There are many boards like this I've ridden that are much further back towards the tail. It feels pretty surfy, meaning surfboards you're riding near the tail. This has a little bit of that going on. It has a very unique camber profile that is rocker between the feet, going to a mellow camber to some early rise in the nose. The tail has a pretty aggressive camber, but it's not touching the snow. It's rocker dominant. It feels a little loose and auto spinny, one footing and flat basing in harder snow. When the snow softens up and the groomers are good, this feels more stable, but it's definitely on the semi-stable side in almost all conditions. It's very easy to skid a turn though. It's very forgiving. It's not a board that's gonna punish you if you get off your game. You'll be able to skid out your turn and keep going. It's just not that fun one footing off a chair or flat basing down a long flat cat track. You have a pretty medium stiff flex. There's a lot of give right here. The nose is kind of softer, just a little bit, makes it a little more fun and powder. The tail's pretty stiff because you've got that camber there. And then there's a little more give in the middle here than the tail, and this part right here is pretty stiff too. Then it gets soft there. So it's a really different flex between the middle here. So when buttering on snow, it's pretty easy to tail butter. It's pretty easy to nose butter, but you do feel a little bit of a break between the feet. That's where the board bends more than, let's say, something like the Cougar that's using a new triple camber technology. It butters a little easier in the tip and tail. This butters a little bit easier in the middle, and that's very unique. There's good pop, especially if you load it off the tail. There's even a little bit of rocker pop you can get here that I like better than the triple camber technology. I just never felt like I could get that to pop as hard as I could Fusion Camber, Shockwave, or the Cougar's new triple camber technology. I thought those had more dynamic, more easily accessible pop. So when you take this flex personality and put it out in hard micro bumpy snow, Never Summer's just a champ there. All these boards do great. I thought the Swift did a little bit better than the Valhalla and the Shapeshifter. It's really in its own world though. It just handled that really well. The tip and tail, they clown shoe and they vibrate and they bounce a little bit, but it just quiets down to the middle where you don't feel it as much coming up into your body. Then you get into soft, uneven snow, you know, like a tracked up powder day. Sometimes this can flex in the middle here a little too much for my taste, and it feels like it slows down your overall turning experience. But if you lean back into the tail a little bit more and try to engage that camber back into the POW or messy snow, it turns a little better and feels good. It's not the dampest in Never Summer's line, but it's very competent and very good. You can point it really well, and the side cut doesn't fight you. If you want to get a big mountain line in with this, you're going to be fine. I love their base glide. They do such a good job. I love traverses with Never Summer boards. They just always do it right. When it comes to edge hold, I like the Valhalla a good bit better than the Swift, but it's very competent edge hold, and it can handle a hard patch or even a borderline icy patch pretty well. Same with the Shapeshifter. This 158 turned really well for my specs. nice. So did the old 157. It has this nice smooth turn initiation. You can get anywhere you want to in tight spots with this ride. Same with the Valhalla, but this just felt a little more set back and turny than the Valhalla, but they're very close. When you get this on edge, the Swift really likes you to lean back into this camber profile here. If you try to drive off the front foot and engage this elliptical camber, it works okay, but I found that the tail washed out a lot. So this is more for people who like to finish their carve with a lot of back foot weight and make sure the tail doesn't wash, but also get a lot of spring out of the turn. That's how this board shines. And the spring out of the turn is amazing, especially coming off the Valhalla, which has that triple camber technology. It's just a lot of mellow camber everywhere. I couldn't really get it to engage like I could with this Fusion camber. There's just a lot of camber off that back foot and it really springs hard. Really underrated carver. Don't get this just for powder, get it for carving groomers too. And speaking of powder, this has great directional float. It's not the best out there, but it's very good. There's lots of taper, 20 mil, a much bigger nose than tail. There's a decent amount of setback on board. So with a 21.25 inch stance width, you can get 4.75 inches back from center of board. That's a lot for a freeride board, but not a massive amount for a snow surf board or some alternative freeride boards out there. It's still not bad, and a lot of people might really like that if they're doing more big mountain, more steeper terrain lines. If you want a little more tail to help stabilize at speed or help you with getting air and not feeling like you have no tail, it's got a big mountain snow surf kind of feel to it that's pretty cool. So overall, I think the new Swift is very much like the old Swift, just a little longer, just a slight tweak on a very fun, very rideable model. I've been riding this board forever in all kinds of camber profiles and shapes. This is a very recommendable board if you want forgiving snow surf that can handle low angle powder pretty well, but also handle steeper angle powder without feeling weird and carve the shit out of groomers. You have a great board.